So, brand new to Amazon Prime is a thriller called Holland, starring Nicole Kidman and Matthew Macfadyen. And the only question I had after watching this was, how in the hell did this movie get made? Now, I apologize for the pun, but I promise you it's more creative than anything else this movie had to offer, so you'll have to live with it. And as I already said, it stars Nicole Kidman, Matthew Macfadyen. He played Tom in Succession, if any of you guys have seen that. But what the movie's about, you have Nicole Kidman playing this housewife in Holland, Michigan, hence the name of the film. And I guess this movie takes place here because this was viewed as like this perfect, idealized town. They're really going for like a Desperate Housewives vibe. But as for the movie, you have her as a stay-at-home housewife, and she's going to start investigating her husband because she feels like something's off with him. He's been acting shady. She works at this high school. She befriends a fellow coworker who's also a teacher there. They start investigating him, wondering why he's always out of town. He's an optometrist. He's an eye doctor. So it's like, why is this guy traveling 3 to 4 times a week all the time? Like, where is he? So that's what this movie is attempting to be. It's supposed to be a thriller with a bunch of twists of what's going on with their family and why he's out of town, yada, yada, yada. But the problem is, when I heard about this film coming to Prime, it was marketed as this big, like, mind-bending twist of a film, and I can all but promise you, it is not. This movie is an absolute slog to get through. Everything you thought of when I described this film, I almost guarantee you've seen this version of the movie like 50 times, but done better. Because the way the movie plays out, you have Nicole Kidman's character. She's not a very interesting person. She's a stay-at-home housewife who's a very bland person. But she's just over the fact that she does the same thing every day and her husband's always out of town. So she's up for like an adventure because she doesn't do anything. So she starts to look into this guy. And that should immediately be a red flag, because whenever you have a character that doesn't do anything and that's their central personality, nothing happens in the movie. Because she befriends this guy, they start investigating the husband, and I promise you it's more interesting than it sounds. I mean, this movie's less than 2 hours. I saw this with somebody else. They could have sworn this was 4 hours. An absolute sleep remedy. Do not watch this before bed, because how the movie actually plays out, you just have Nicole Kidman and this high school teacher she's kind of befriended going around and stalking this guy for a large portion of the movie. But it's not really directly all that. There's a lot of useless filler, boring conversations, lame, poor editing that just fills all of the time in between what moves this story. It's kind of a tale of 3 movies. The first third of this, they're just living a peaceful life in the suburbs. The middle portion of the film is where she starts the investigation. And then the final part of the movie is where this movie should really pick up, where the twist should set in. But the problem I have is when you're undergoing an investigative movie like this, the payoff has to be worth it. And this was the most generic cookie cutter answer ever. Like anything your mind could possibly think of based on the concept I told you, one of the answers you thought of, probably the most predictable answer of all of them, is the answer this movie gives. So what you're left with is a thriller that's 2 hours long, not thrilling at all, has cardboard characters with a very predictable central twist. Positives, I guess the movie looks okay. It has a stacked cast, Nicole Kidman and Matthew Macfadyen. They're both exceptional actors, but they can't save this plot. I mean, we've seen Nicole Kidman do this before, at least in my opinion. She almost never is attached to a good script. This movie, much like a lot of her works in my opinion, just feels like a very big budget Lifetime movie. Again, like an episode of Desperate Housewives, just done poorly. I really like Matthew Macfadyen as well. He's kind of playing the same role he always plays, like he played as Tom in Succession. He has to be worth investigating. He has to kind of be a family guy, but he also has to be kind of off-putting at certain points. So I think he's good for what he's asked to do. But again, there's just not a whole lot for him to do because he's playing a very generic character we've seen done better like 50 times because the script was better. Another point of interest for me is this movie was called Holland, based on Holland, Michigan, and I was interested in what they were going to do with that theme. And to be honest, they didn't really do anything. I have no idea why this movie is named Holland. I get the idea, the central like idealized town they're going for, but there's nothing to the central plot of this movie that makes you want to call it Holland. I mean, you could have called this movie Housewife. Nothing changes. It's one of those movies that's trying to add style to a very familiar story to make it feel more unique than it actually is. There's like a board of this entire town that the husband has in his basement, and then there's like this tulip song and these traditions. And I guess that's kind of cool as like an added layer on top, but it doesn't carry the fact that we've seen the movie done before plenty of times. So again, if that's why they called this movie Holland and they wanted to market it as this unique town, doesn't really relate to that at all as the movie goes on. And the other central part of this film is the connection Nicole Kidman has to the other teacher she has befriended. I did not find that believable whatsoever. There's like this weird racial undertone going on in the town because apparently he's Latino. Then he's kind of friendly in some scenes. He's kind of a dick in the other scenes. He's kind of in love instantly in another scene. So his character was all over the place. The fact that they do not mesh at all is a big problem because you spend a lot of the movie, at least a third of it, with Nicole Kidman and him doing this mystery. And then when you do get to the final act and you'd expect that major twist, as I've already said a couple of times, incredibly predictable, everything you possibly think you've seen. And a problem I have with it, it's not even executed clean. This is one of those times like I know what they're going for. I know they're trying to put a couple of twists on it, but even knowing what they wanted to do, I talked to the person I watched this with, we were kind of confused like why half of the stuff happened that did. There's a subplot going on with the friend that she's investigating with, and that kind of comes to this weird abrupt halt, and they try to put a twist on that as well. And like nothing that's going on between either of these two characters makes sense at all. It's like, why did those two characters do anything they did? And then when you pair that with the central theme that's going on, it's supposed to be a major reveal, but I felt nothing. So that all comes and goes, it comes to an abrupt end, and then it tries to close itself out with this weird montage of the town in the form of like buildings and dolls, trying to tie it all together to that theme of Holland with some stylistic ending that does not connect whatsoever, because as I've already said, it's all pretty pointless and there's no point to that title. So overall, guys, I watched this last night. Absolute sleep remedy. My eyes were drooping about 25 minutes in. This movie felt like it was about 5 hours. You see it on your homepage scrolling Prime. Do not waste your time with this movie. This movie is absolute background noise. So if you guys did see Holland, comment down below. Let me know if you thought it was as much of a snoozer as me or if you actually enjoyed this thing. As always, if you haven't subscribed, join me down below. Love talking movies with you. I'll see you in the next review. Peace.